talking to myself again. I just realized that. Thank goodness I looked. No, so sorry about that. I'm gonna start over now that I have audio, and I can actually see that audio's on. I had forgotten I turned off my microphone. All right, so starting over. Um, Today we're gonna be continuing on with the FAQ page tool. Vamos a continuar con la herramienta para preguntas frecuentes. I think one of the things that we're going to look at today, una de las cosas que vamos a ver el día de hoy es cómo manipular y cambiar la orden en las cuales se encuentran las preguntas. The order we're going to work on how we order let me clean this up a little bit. Oops. How we order the questions, what order they're going to appear in. Vamos a cambiar la orden en cual las preguntas van a aparecer. Entonces, hay que continuar con eso. So let's go look at our code. Vamos a ir a ver a nuestro código. Make sure our FAQ, everything's running fine. Great. We can close this. Vamos a cerrar esto. All right, so it was on our topic selector. Let's go back to our topic selector. It's a form. Let me expand this. Vamos a expandir esto un poco. Topic selector. And in the topic selector, what we had was we had a setup where we could change, podemos cambiar la orden. We could change the order that we were going to be moving the questions. So we're going to do the same thing for the questions. Vamos a hacer lo mismo para las preguntas. Okay. So let's go ahead and go to our Q&A. Question answer. And in our question answer, we have a content bar. Yep, so this is gonna be where we're gonna have our rearrangement. So we're gonna add basically the same functions, handle move up and handle move down. Vamos a tener básicamente las mismas funciones, una que mueve la pregunta para arriba y una que mueve la pregunta para abajo para cambiar la orden. So let's go ahead and do that. Vamos a hacer eso. Yeah, it's right here. Okay, muy bien. Let's handle move up. And we can see already that podemos ver ya que nuestro copilot, el ayudante, GitHub Copilot, nos está ayudando. It's helping us so that we can build the moving part. So mutate, reconnect, let's see what is going on, what it did. If the FAQ items by parent ID are there, then we're gonna do this. Vamos a hacer esto. Oops. Mutate. I don't know that this, no pienso que esto está, I don't think that this is the way we want to do it, even though I'm not sure. New FAQ item array. Okay, I see what it's doing. Vamos a cambiar la manera que estamos poniendo la información. Oh, my battery is gonna run out on my camera. Let me switch that out. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. Disculpen por eso. Let's continue. Vamos a continuar. Okay. So the reason that GitHub Copilot is setting it up the way it is because it thinks that we're using this, but we're not needing the questions to change here. How do we do this? ¿Cómo podemos hacer esto de la mejor manera? Because in topic selector, where the only way I can think of is we have them have a way to select the questions that are going to show up. La única manera que pienso que podemos hacer esto es hacer que el usuario seleccione qué preguntas van a enseñar y qué preguntas no van a enseñar. Eso es el... I don't know. I don't know if I should even open that can of worms. No sé si hacer eso es una buena idea. Let's try something. Vamos a tratar algo. Let's create a state. Vamos a crear un estado. On this one, we're using the store. Select the topic array. Let's go to the Claude file. Before we go here, antes de que vayamos ahí, vamos a agregarle unas instrucciones. So let's add some instruction. Let's talk about architecture. And in the architecture, en la arquitectura, necesitamos ponerle, we need to put a little bit more detail, un poquito más detalle a lo que estamos haciendo, to what we're doing. That way, we maybe can get some help and we can think of planning this out. Vamos a planearlo un poquito más. And I actually want to talk about that in one of the sessions that we have. I think I need to talk about planning a little bit more. Because there's so many times that we don't plan these things. Like even as developers, we think we tend to put an afterthought or put it in the back burner, and we don't really plan what it is that we build, and then we just basically let users kind of change the scope sometimes. And a veces lo que hacemos es que hacemos nada más hacemos los productos sin planear nada. Y luego cada ratito están cambiando las cosas, las personas que quieren que hagamos los productos, y necesitamos evitar eso. So that's why I think that we should, por eso pienso que deberíamos planear un poquito. We should plan things out a little bit. And so let's talk about architecture. So the architecture consists of, la arquitectura consiste de dos listas. So let's add, vamos a agregar here core entities. Basically, ¿qué es lo que estamos haciendo? Lo que está en, let's get rid of this red stuff for now. Vamos a quitar esto por ahora. Okay, core entities. Tenemos topics, tópicos, and you can kind of see, let's do the preview. Topics, and the topics is the top level that organizes questions by having a one-to-many relationship between topics list and the questions list. Okay, so we have topics, and then we have questions, and this is individual questions with answers. Individual questions with answers, children to the topics. Okay, and then that outlines our architecture, what we have. If we look at our lists, so we go to site contents here, we have an FAQ list and FAQ topics. That's what we have. Okay, and so what I'm saying is I'm laying out the architecture to understand how these entities work with one another. Okay, now from a technology standpoint, let's add that. So from a technology, actually we can do architecture with 2 as well. That way it doesn't look huge. FAQ project, architecture core. Yep, that's perfect. And up here, we can do general. Like what's in general as far as instructions are concerned. Lo general en las instrucciones que tenemos el estilo, the style palette. Then we talked about architecture, cómo están las listas. Now we're going to talk about the technology stack. The technology stack is SharePoint framework. And we're using React, TypeScript, and we're using PNP JS for SharePoint integration. and we're using SWR for data fetching, caching, and then we're using yup for forms validation, and we are using Zustan for local state caching. Estamos usando SharePoint Framework, React con TypeScript, PNP.js para integración con SharePoint, SWR para obtener la información del servidor y guardar la información del servidor. Y también tenemos yup para validar lo que está ingresando el usuario a la forma, y Zustan para lo que es lo que es el estado local, the local states that's being stored in the Zustan library. All right. No, don't do that. No, man. Come here. Come here. Come here. No. Yes, please. All right. All right. So we have these things set up. Now the next thing that we want to do is talk about, lo próximo que queremos agregar es agregarlo agregar la, and that would be more around agregar las how would you say, ¿cómo diríamos agregar las core entities, and then what else can we put? So we have the architecture, technology stack, color, style palette. What can we put as far as let's save this for now. Let's call them views. Vamos a llamarlos views. So we have two views. We have a view called edit view, configuration, and then we have the the display display view, and user view. View displaying the FAQ in the format the user wants to use, the user wants to view the FAQ Webpart. Tenemos dos maneras que se va a ver la aplicación. There's two ways that the view is going to be the FAQ Webpart is going to be shown on the page. There's two different views. We have the edit view, the configuration view, which is what you see when we click on, when we're on the page, and you can see these tabs at the top. And then we have the final view, which is gonna, when they select the layout, how it's gonna look on the page. So those are the two views that we have. In the configuration view, we have a instructions component shows the instructions for the use of the web part, and then it has the topic selector, allows user to select topics and order them in a specific way, and change the order. All right. Then we have the question answer, allows user to create, edit, delete, let's just shorten this to create, update, delete questions and their answers. And then we finally have the preview, allows users select allows users to select the different views that will ultimately show in the view show in the display view. Okay. Now, the next thing that we have to discuss is so we have the components. Actually, let's do that. Let's components, and then let's move this over. Functionality. User goes through all configuration settings. The data is stored in the Zstand store, and when user clicks save, the configuration is saved. Where is it saved? It's saved in the configuration is saved in the, what is that called? Property pane. The property pane of the Webpart. I guess what I need to do some planning on, what I need to plan on is, so right now it says to plan. Read the Claude MD file to get some general information on the Read the Cloud MD file to get some general information on the project. Once you have read that, let me know. I need to plan how to store the configuration for this web part once the user decides to save the FAQs in the format that best suits them. Okay. I want to do some planning right now because we're getting so much down the line. Ya vamos casi llegando, vamos como 70% del camino. We're about 70% there with the web part that I really think we need to start thinking about we really need to start thinking about is that list. We need to start thinking about the overall plan. So we have the FAQ list. And we have the FAQ topics. So those are our lists. Actually do this. So we are, like I said, we're a good ways down the road on this overall build, and it's time to start thinking the fake file in the source. What? Why do you need that? I guess. And typically when you get across these things, típicamente lo que hacemos como desarrolladores or developers is we get to these scenarios where we need to really think about what it is we're building. Necesitamos preguntarnos qué es lo que estamos creando y si lo estamos haciendo de la mejor manera. Y regularmente, regularmente tenemos el rubber duck, this guy right here. And before AI, this was my go-to guy. To talk these things through, to talk these things through and figure out, you know, how we can work on a project. And let's see what it says. Got it. Here's what I found. Current state. Config save JSON string. What in the world? Oh yeah, layout is a string, topics number. State configuration is never called. The property pane. Save button on edit view. Auto save on each change. Should display view on FAQ forms. current stand state, unsaved changes visible, question storage should select questions be stored in config. Okay, so it's getting a little bit ahead of me, so está avanzando un poquito más de lo que estoy ahorita. So I'm not ready to get this far. You're a bit ahead. Right now, the main work has been to store the topics in the selected topics, but there are a few things that I am concerned about. So I mean, because there are a few things that I'm concerned about. So hay unas cosas que estoy un poquito preocupado. I'm concerned about the fact that if we store, right, we're creating, we're gonna create a JSON and we're gonna store it so that when we load our web part reads the JSON and displays the topics in the order that we want and displays the questions in the order that we want. And my main concern is what if somebody, like, because this can be reused, right? And concerns that I have is if somebody goes and moves this somewhere else and deletes the question or deletes a topic, then we have an issue where our configuration is going to try to retrieve something that's already been deleted. First concern is what if when user saves config but topics have been what if the user saves a config but say a bit time later someone comes and creates another FAQ on another page but deletes some of the questions that are referenced in the config JSON. What it basically, if I create the FAQ and I put it on a page, right? I put it on like right now, it's on this page called FAQ.ASPX. Say I put it here, and then somebody else comes, creates another page and puts the same FAQ web part, but decides to remove questions. I mean, the only thing that we can do is put a message on there that says, hey, if you remove this question, it's going to impact others. So I know we can add delete prompt telling users that if they delete a question or topic, it could impact others. We can also have configurations saved in a third list if we wanted to, so that we can identify if there are other web parts using the questions and answers. But my main concern is that how would we keep that updated? Because when a person removes a web part from a page, there's nothing that tells the system, hey, this was deleted. There is no way the system knowing that the Webpart has been removed. So then we can have a lot of config items and no web part associated with it. So that's just one of the concerns that we have. Eso es nada más es una de las preocupaciones que tengo con esto. So I'm trying to think, estoy tratando de pensar que, like, what would be the best thing to do here? And I really do think that the more and more I think about it, the more and more I'm talking this through, lo más que pienso las cosas y lo más que estamos hablando esto, es que vamos a tener que tener una manera de seleccionar las preguntas. Cross-page tracking, do you need to prevent deletions? No, I think it should fail silently, and when in config view, we can show the errors. Like, say, question with ID 2 is no longer there, we can have a warning letting the user know that a question has been removed. Right now, if you look at Q&A, I think we need to plan to update that component to be like the topic selector to allow the adding and removing of questions. Entonces lo que con la excepción es que creo que debe de silenciar sin dar un error grande cuando lo están viendo la página, cuando un usuario, una persona que abre la página y no tiene acceso de cambiar la configuración, no queremos mostrar un error. Pero si abren la configuración, entonces sí les podemos decir, ¿sabes qué? Una de las preguntas que tú seleccionaste ya no existe. Y también necesitamos actualizar el component de las preguntas porque lo tenemos que hacer como el selectador de tópicos para poder dejar al usuario seleccionar qué preguntas va a utilizar y qué preguntas no va a utilizar. So yeah, I mean, so if a user comes, they load the page, they shouldn't see any errors. If they open the page in configuration mode, then they should see an error saying like, hey, this question has been removed. And I also think that the Q&A needs to plan to update we need to update the Q&A component so that it works like the topic selector, allowing adding and removing questions as well as allowing ordering. Then we need to also necesitamos also planear how the configuration and the questions order will work. Yeah, we need to plan how the configuration and the question order will work because we probably want to store the IDs of the topics only and the IDs of the questions only so that we are not storing the actual topic string, question string, and answer string. That should be retrieved from SharePoint on demand when the page loads. Then we have to normalize the data by merging the question with the order array in the config JSON. Is that the best way Yeah. What would be best practice for this? Um, so this happens all the time. Esto pasa todo el tiempo. We have to be able to talk things through when you're doing development, because you have to be able to set yourself a path in which you want to go. You have to have uh, a clear understanding of what it is that we're building. And unfortunately, I'm going to tell you the truth, whenever you're working in this kind of work, a lot of times we do not get that real nice scenario where we have a business analyst that comes in and asks the user, hey, let's write it all down, let's plan it out. You don't have any of that. The user just comes and says, hey, I need this, can you build it? The user can say, hey, can you build a frequently asked question tool? They don't tell you pretty much anything more than that, and it's up to you to build it. I'm just being completely transparent that in all the years that I've been doing this kind of work, en todos los años que he estado haciendo este trabajo, nunca me ha tocado ese escenario que tengo todo a la mano, me dicen, está todo planeado. I don't have any of that. And what you're seeing right now is literally what I go through every single day when I'm doing this kind of work, because I never get that scenario where they just tell me, oh, this is how we want it built, this is how we want it looked, here are the wireframes, here's the requirements. Good luck. 9 times out of 10, when you get this kind of job, it's build this. This is what it's going to be for. Here you go. And here's the laptop that you got to build it on. I promise you that that's how it works. And then you build something. Te prometo que esto es la manera que funciona. Te dicen, no, quiero que hacer esto, y ya, y te dan el laptop y tú haces el trabajo. And then what happens is you build it, and then they're like, you know what, that looks cool, but can you add this? Or can you add that? And can you add this? And can you add that? And you're getting that insight, honestly, because the way I'm literally building this right now is how day in and day out my job goes. Is I have to build and then get feedback and then build some more and then get feedback and then build some more. And so there's times that I can't just reach out and say, oh, by the way, how do you think we should do this, or what, and that's where I would talk to my rubber duck back in the day. Now I have AI to help me a little bit with that, and then I'll go through some ideas. AI will give me some ideas back, and then we go into implementation. Vamos a implementar. Preguntamos a inteligencia artificial, vamos a ver unas ideas para que me des una respuesta de lo que piensas que debo de hacer, and then we just take it from there. Lo llevamos ahí. All right, so this is what we have so far, what it's saying. So let's see what it says. Smart, let's think through this. Data storage, config JSON property, layout, accordion, topics, ID, questions, ID, questions. I don't know. Yeah, I think this could work. And then why the structure stores only IDs, minimal payload, preserves topic order, array position, preserves question order per topic, easy to validate against SharePoint standard relational pattern. Okay. Unload, parse, config JSON, get the topic and the question IDs, fetch topics by ID from SharePoint, fetch question by IDs from SharePoint, merge SharePoint data with config order. But filter out missing IDs, silent fail, and then render. Unload. Edit mode, same as above. Show warnings for missing IDs. Question 2 has how to log in no longer exists. Topic 5 no longer exists. On save edit mode, reads the sent state, select topics plus questions with order, serialized to ID only structure, call set configuration, Q&A component updates needed. Current state, basic CRUD, no ordering. I guess so at first I guess this is why this is good. This is why this is good, because at first I thought we could technically just fetch the questions by the topic ID, but I like where it's headed, because if you fetch the questions by their own individual IDs, we're becoming very efficient. Our application is very efficient, because then we're only retrieving the questions that we need when the user's viewing the web part. Like whenever they open the page and they want to see the page clean, they don't want to see the configuration, we should show the questions by their IDs in the order that they are outlined. So I actually, now that I kind of have this back and forth with AI, ahora que tengo esta pregunta para con AI, me está dando ideas. It's giving me ideas. And I agree with these ideas that it's giving me. And I believe if we look at our architecture or our application, we have a lot of this. So we have our hooks, we have our use items, which is our questions. So FAQ items. The only thing that we would need to do is create a use FAQ by ID. And actually, now that I even think about it, the FAQ, because we're using SWR, and if the ID is undefined, well, no, the ID wouldn't be undefined technically, porque estamos usando SWR para pedir la información de SharePoint y guardar la información. No hay ningún problema con no tener un ID. So yes, we need to create the architecture here in a little bit to retrieve the questions by ID. We already have the retrieval of topics by ID. So I like what AI is mentioning. So now the next thing is, let's see what else it's saying. Normalize merge SharePoint data with the config order. Topic 1 has questions. SharePoint has questions 5A, question 8 with full data. Q5 data, Q8 data, Q3 data in that order. Okay, filter out missing IDs, semifill, and then render. Very good. All right, on save, read substance state, select topics plus questions with order, serialize to only ID structure, set configuration, JSON stringify config. Q&A, component of the current state, basic CRUD, no ordering, target state like topic selector features. Add questions filtered by selected topic. Remove questions, reorder questions, per topic question validation warnings. The IDs only storage, but yes, for SharePoint framework work, because separation of concerns, structure. I'm gonna read this and I'm gonna translate it to Spanish, because if you're watching my stream, you can actually read. I hope you can read this. This is pretty large size. Pero lo que básicamente está diciendo es que vamos a tener una estrategia de cómo guardamos la información. Vamos a crear una propiedad. We're going to have a property for accordion. Then we're going to have a property for the topics, and it's going to be an array. Esta es una lista de los tópicos. So it's going to have an object where we're going to have the ID of the topic. Va a tener un objeto donde vamos a tener el identificador del tópico y el identificador de las preguntas. We're going to have the IDs of the questions as well as the ID of the topic. That's how it's going to be structured, which I like it. I agree with this. I think this is the way we should build this. And the configuration stores only ID so that we can have a minimal payload. That means a little bit of data. We don't want to have a bunch of data that we're storing in our configuration. Preserves the topic order and the array position because we're adding them in a specific position to the array. Preserves question order per topic. Okay. Easy to validate against SharePoint. Va a ser preservado en la orden de que pusimos en la lista los tópicos, al igual las preguntas. Va a ponerlas en la posición que seleccionamos. Va a ser fácil de validar contra SharePoint. Easy to validate against SharePoint. Y va a tener una relación entre las dos listas va a tener la relación uh, standard. It's going to have a standard relational pattern, basically parent-child. We have a parent topic to the child question. Okay, so that's what that means. The data flow, la manera que los datos van a estar siendo obtenidos es que cuando la página se, um, se reproduzca en el browser, when the page shows up on the browser, it's going to parse the config JSON, va a ir a ver el JSON de configuración, basically this JSON, this one right here, esta data va a ir y va a obtener esta pregunta que tiene los tópicos y las preguntas. It's going to get this JSON, which has the topic and the question IDs. Then it's going to fetch the topics by the IDs from SharePoint. Va a ir a SharePoint y va a pedir todos los tópicos por los identificadores. Then it's going to fetch the questions by IDs from SharePoint. Va a ir y reproducir las preguntas por el identificador de SharePoint. And then it's going to normalize and merge the data, because remember, we have two pieces of data. We have the data from SharePoint, from the server, and then we have the data in your config JSON, and it's going to merge those two so that then we can display the questions and the topics in the order that the user wanted them. So that's going to be the goal. Filter out missing IDs, because obviously there's going to be some ID. If somebody opens and works on another FAQ on another page and deletes a question, then it should silently fail. They shouldn't show an error. Si alguien va a otra página y crea esta herramienta en otra página y borra una de las preguntas, uno de los tópicos, no debe demostrar ningún error, nada más silenciosamente fallar, y el usuario no debe tener ninguna idea. The user should not have any idea. And then if everything's good, render. Si todo está bien, debe demostrar las preguntas y las respuestas. Now in edit, if a user opens the page on edit, like we're looking at it now, this is edit because you can see the republish button at the top. When they open it in edit mode, then you want to show them if there's a question missing or a topic missing. Entonces, cuando le vas a decir, tenemos una pregunta o un tópico que ya no existe, we have a topic or a question that doesn't exist. Okay? So that's going to happen only when we're in edit mode. For the Q&A, we're going to update it to have the ability to not just add, remove, edit, CRUD the question and answer. No nada más ahorita tenemos la manera de poder actualizar la pregunta y las respuestas. Ahora tenemos que tener una manera de lo mismo que hicimos con los tópicos, agregar preguntas y quitar preguntas. Now we have to have the ability to add questions and remove questions. So that's going to be the next thing that we do. In honesty, that's the first thing that we're going to do right now. That in this stream, we're going to update the question and answer component to work like the topic component. What do I mean by that? If we go to the topic component, in the topic component, we can add topics into the selected topics. So you can see on my screen that I'm able to, you see how I have all topics on the bottom and I'm shifting that topic down, general? I can move general back up and put development back under all topics if I don't want to use it. So if I go to Q&A, you'll notice that I only have general. If I add development, then I go to Q&A and I now have both of them. That's what I mean by that. So now this component, in this stream that we're doing right now, we're going to update this component so that when I expand general, I can see the selected questions and the available questions. Okay? And we want to shift those up and down, just like we did the topics. We want to have the ability to toggle them up and down like this. Okay? So I can have my questions like this, and I can have, so right now it's showing general and development. If I go to topics and I switch development up, development in general. So you can toggle them up and down. That's the concepts that we want to have, okay? And now we need to update our question answer component to do the same thing that we did in our topics component. That way, the user has full control on what questions they want to see and what order they want to see them in. So let's go ahead and do that. Vamos a hacer eso. Vamos a ir a actualizar este component para poder mover las preguntas para arriba y para abajo en la orden en las que te la tenemos. Y también para poder hacer todo lo que ya estamos haciendo, como borrar, editar, cambiar las preguntas, ¿ok? All right, so let's do that. So let's go to our Q&A component. Vamos a ir a nuestro question answer component. And at question answer component, we have, I believe it's this content bar. Yeah, it's this content bar, esta barra. So si inspectamos, if we inspect it, and we go to components, and I highlight this, you see it's a content bar. So each one of these is a content bar. So we have a content bar for development and we have a content bar for general. That's why you see content bar right here. Por eso ves content bar aquí. So we go to the definition of content bar. In content bar, we have two action buttons, chevron down and chevron up. And then we have a content button for add. Oh, sorry, an action button for add. That's this button. And then we have this button here that expands or collapses. Tenemos este botón que expande o cierra la pregunta. Y tenemos este botón que agrega una pregunta. So you can see this is the add a question button. And then we have the chevron down, chevron up button. And in between them, we have the title. Tenemos el nombre. We have the title right here. So then that stays the way it is. Eso se queda de la manera que está. We do not change it. No cambiamos eso. Ahora lo que tenemos que cambiar, what we have to change, is this part right here. Esta parte aquí. We have to change this here because this needs to have, similar to the topic selector. So we go to the topic selector. In the topic selector, we have a selected topic section and an all topics section. Entonces tenemos que tener lo mismo para las preguntas. We have to have the same thing for the questions. We have to select, tenemos que tener la área para las preguntas seleccionadas y una área para todas las preguntas. So we have to have those two sections. So let's go ahead and work on that. So if I open my question answer, here's the question answer. Let's go here and create a new folder. Question selector. Because we have the topic selector down here, topic selector. And we're going to create a new file called all questions section. And then we're going to create another file called the selected questions section. All right. And then let's go ahead and create the question selector. So we're going to create a new file as well here. Oops. Where was it? Right here. We're going to create a new file called question selector. Okay. So the question selector is basically what is going to be inside of our, let's see. We can close this for now. So it's going to be inside our content bar. Va a estar dentro del content bar. So when we opened the content bar, we had an expanded. So when it expands, what we're going to see is the brand new question selector. Vamos a hacer un nuevo seleccionador de preguntas. That's going to be very similar. Va a ser casi igual que el selector de topic. Is going to be the same as a topic selector. So let's go ahead and do that. So if we go ahead and open the topic selector, let's go ahead and start by making it very similar to this, but obviously we're gonna have obviously we're gonna have it be selecting questions. So let's put this to the side, kind of make it a little bit smaller. All right, so let's go to our question selector, and we're gonna create a arrow function component, functional component. So import all as React from React. And this is going to be a React functional component. All right. And this one is going to have the question, all the questions together. So we're going to create a type question selector props. And we're going to have FAQ items, which is going to be an array of FAQ item. Okay. And we need to actually update our store as well. Let me go look at the Webpart store. So in the Webpart store, we have a selected topics array, but we don't have a questions array. Tenemos una manera de poner la lista de tópicos, pero no tenemos la manera de agregar la lista de preguntas. So we have a way of adding our array of topics, but we don't have the way of adding the array of questions. So let's add that. So here we're gonna add select. Actually, let's make it right below it. Selected questions array, and this is gonna be FAQ item array, and it's not gonna be optional. No va a ser opcional. It's gonna have something in there. All right, and so here, aquí, where is the array? Select the topic array. Why do we have selected topic ID array still here? Let's say selected questions array. But why do we have selected topic ID? Well, that doesn't exist anywhere. Yeah, we shouldn't have that. So we have a topics array and a questions array. All right, so now we have to have a setter. Tenemos que poder guardar la lista de las preguntas. So here in the setter, set selected question array, which is going to be the questions FAQ item. Yep. Okay, so let's add our setter. Vamos a agregar nuestro. Let's move this. I believe we had this up here. I'm always a stickler for ordering. Siempre me gusta ordenar las cosas igual. I like to order the things the same. That way it makes it easier later on for me to be able to read. So questions array, topics array. Then we have our setter. So topic array, question array, topic array. Let's move this up. All right, so on top here. Wait, did I do that right? No, this is incorrect. Topics and then question. Topics, question, topic. We have to add our question here. Wait, where is this closure? Okay, I get it now. Set selected question array. Okay, so this in our store, we're setting up a way for us to store now our question array, just like we have our topic array. Okay, so just like we had for the topic selector, we're going to I don't know if this is gonna be, I think this is gonna be the same. because if I remember correctly, when we were under topics, the only difference was that no, I think that we do need to make it look the same. We need to make it work the same. So we are gonna need a set. Let me put our store over here so I can see. Okay, so our store, we're going to need the set selected questions array. I could assume that the topic selector used. Yeah, no, we have the topic, but we already have this in question answer. Let's go look at question answer. So in question answer, we have our current FAQ item. So this is what we need. Set current FAQ item. And let's go back to topic selector, toggle. We're gonna need the toggle, the mutation. Let's wait on this. Vamos a esperar un poquito en esto. Let's wait on the properties a little bit. We definitely, the FAQ items is a given that we're gonna need it. So let's leave that as it is. So here we're gonna say FAQ items and set current FAQ items. And this is going to use the question selector props. Esto va a utilizar las propiedades que están definidas aquí. This is going to use the props that are defined here. This is all that means, is we're seeing that this is a React functional component that uses these props that are defined in this type. And those props are going to be used in the JSX. Van a ser utilizados en esta parte de aquí. All right. Entonces, so then what we'll do is for the topic selector, we're going to use the Webpart store. Vamos a usar la Webpart store como está aquí. And so let's go ahead and bring in the Webpart store. Const empty object equals use Webpart store. Okay. And in the Webpart store, we're going to use the selected questions array and the set selected questions array. We're going to wait on the set error and the toggle error for now. Vamos a esperar en esas dos cosas. We're not going to use those just yet. And then we're going to add this toggler for the selected topic. So here we're going to use const toggle selected question, and we're going to basically just write it exactly the same as we have it for the topic. Okay, so what this is doing is a toggle selected question. Esta es una función que se llama toggle selected question. Básicamente agrega la pregunta, and it's going to take the question that you selected, and it's going to be a function that doesn't return anything. It just does something. Es una función que no regresa nada, no te regresa ninguna información, nada más hace algo. Lo que hace, what it does is that it looks to see if the question is in the array, which obviously it's not going to be, but it does the check anyway. If it is not in the array, si no está en la lista, va a crear una nueva lista. Is going to create a new list, which is called updated array. Okay. And set the selected question array to that updated array. Porque tenemos una lista, va a tomar la lista y va a agregar un artículo, el que tú seleccionaste, y lo va a agregar al grupo de preguntas. Ok. Si no, va a crear un nuevo lista si no lo estás tratando de quitar, if you're trying to remove it from that. So what this is saying right here on the next part is saying go through the selected question array. Ok, vas a ir a la lista de lo que has seleccionado y vas a usar el filtro. What the filter means is, in this scenario, is you're removing something. Okay, what that means is that, say for instance, let's pretend you're in a building that has a revolving door. Okay, and you're looking for, let's just say the question's name is John, for example. Más un ejemplo. So the revolving door, the people in the list are coming through the revolving door. Okay, and you're looking for John. You stop the first person and you're like, okay, what's your name? And they say Denise, right? You're not on. You're okay. Come on in. Okay. Then the next person comes up. Okay, what's your name? And he says, oh, my name is John. Oh, you're the one I'm looking for. You're not allowed to come in here. Okay, that's what filter does. It no, actually the yeah. So in this scenario, what it's doing is it's only allowing the people in that does not equal that. So let's just say John is the one that you're removing, okay, from your list. So the people are in the list, they're coming in through the revolving door. You ask their name, and the people that are not equal to the name John, you're letting them into the building. You're letting them be part. So think of updated array as the building. The word updated array, think of it as a container, like just a, like a vessel, okay? And then the revolving door is going around and it's asking, are you so and so? If you are not that person, come on into the jar, to the container, right? And then when you come across the person that is supposed to not be in the container, like John in our example, then you would turn that person away and not put them in the container, because that updated array should only include the person that is allowed into that container. I hope that you're understanding, because my goal here is to go about learning code a different way, the way that I wish somebody would have taught me, the way I wish somebody would have told me, like, hey man, this would be a lot easier to understand if you understood it this way. And that's my goal. Okay, my goal, don't memorize code, just understand the concepts. That's the biggest thing I can tell you. Code memorization will come with time. No te memorices el código. Eso va a venir con el tiempo. Lo importante entender son los conceptos, the concepts. And the concept here, when you see the word filter, is you're trying to eliminate based on a certain criteria. Inside the filter, dentro del filtro, if you look at the parentheses, this is what's inside of the parentheses is what you're checking for. Okay, so if a question comes in that is not equal to the question that we passed as a parameter, you are not returning that question. Si la pregunta no es igual a la pregunta que tú pasaste en el parámetro de la función, no va a ser parte de la lista. Okay? So filters like the bouncer at a club. Es como un guardiante en una discoteca que tiene una lista. He has a list. Okay? And what you're telling that guard, lo que le estás diciendo a ese guardiante is, look for, this is the rule that I want you to look for. Esa es la regla que quiero que sigas. The rule is, does the question that is coming to you not equal the question that is being passed here? A function is a verb. Like when you're talking about language, cuando estás hablando del lenguaje, una función es como un verbo, una cosa que haces. Like, he threw the ball, right? Okay? So let's just, hypothetically speaking, una manera de explicarlo, vamos a decir que está esta persona y tú le dijiste, esta es la pregunta que te estoy preguntando. This is the question that I'm concerned about. Okay? And I'm telling this filter that if the question Q, this Q, is that thing that's coming around in the revolving door, right? So you're the guard at the building, person's coming in through the revolving door. Okay, are you not this person? And if you're not, come on in. But if you are the person, you're not allowed to come in. Okay? That's what filter means. So this is what's happening here. We're basically saying if it is in the array, you know, if it's not in the array, then we're going to add it to the array. If it is in the array, we're going to remove it from the array. And then we're going to take that same updated list and we're going to set that as the new data, the new list, without that one person you didn't want there. Sin la persona que tú no querías ahí. So I hope that gives you an understanding of what's going on in this function. That's why we use functions. We use functions because we need to do something over and over and over again. Tenemos funciones porque hacemos una cosa muchas veces. And we don't want to write it every time. No queremos escribir estas instrucciones cada vez. So we just write a function that takes care of it for us. All right. Ahora vamos a seguir con lo siguiente. Let's create these next functions. So next function is going to be handle move up and handle move down. Const handle move up. And let's go ahead and let Copilot do its thing. So, and I'll explain it to you what it's doing. And then handle move down. Okay. So this is basically saying, eso es lo que está diciendo esta function. This is what this function is doing. If the index is equal to 0, this is never going to happen. Because we're going to make our buttons disabled. Here's what I mean by that. If we go to topics, you notice how this is at the top of the list. And the button is grayed out because it's already at the top of the list. Okay. Similar to this one. The button to push it down is grayed out. Why? Because it's already at the bottom of the list. Okay. So these two functions, handle move up and handle move down, start by saying, if your index is 0, meaning you're already at the top of the list, return. Don't do anything. Just stop there. It's like a break. Get out. We're not going to do anything, right? That's what that is doing. The same thing here. If index equals the length of, so the length, when we use the length is we want to know the total amount of things that there are. So if the list has 10 items, then we have to get the count or the length. So if the length is 10 and the index is equal to the length minus 1, because index starts at 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Technically there's 9, but there's only 8 in the length, right? Because we start with 0. Okay? So if we're at the end of the list, then we just return it. We don't do it. Again, these are things that are not really used, but it's good practice to have in case somebody tries, I don't know. It's just a way to write code in a safe manner. Es una manera de escribir código en una manera segura. That's why we do that, okay? Then the next one says the new array is going to take the selected question array, okay? Esto va a crear uno, it's basically creating a carbon copy. Está creando una copia de la lista. It's creating a copy of the list. That's all new array is doing. It's just saying, okay, take the original, give me a copy to work with, okay? Then we create a temp, okay? Temp means we're creating basically like a temporary container to hold the array, okay? And then the new array index minus 1. So whatever the new array, it's really hard for me to explain. But what it's basically doing is we're shifting the number of the item. So if I have a list and tengo una lista and I have items 1 through 10, for example, right? Item A, B, C. A is at 0, B is at 1, C is at 2. So what it means by index is that 0, 1, and 2. Okay? And you're taking the array and you're basically shuffling the index. So if I'm moving it up, I'm subtracting 1 from the index. So if A, B, C, right? And I'm moving B up, switching it with A, then I'm taking the index, which would be 1 because it's B, and I'm switching it to 0. And then I'm taking A and switching it, over. So they're kind of switching. So that's essentially what's happening in this function. Okay, it's shuffling up the data, right? Because you can see here, index is -1 here and +1 here. If we're moving an item, again, we take the concept of A, B, and C, 0, 1, 2, right? B is 2, and we want to move it to the end. I mean, B is 1, and we want to move it to the end. It shifts and then adds 1 to the index, making it 2. That's what's happening there. So it's shuffling the array. Then on the last line, it's setting the array. It's setting the list based on what we selected, the way we toggled it. Okay. All right. So now let's create our container. So here we're gonna add a content container, just like we had in our topic selector, and add a title section. Title is going to equal add, modify, and remove questions. And we're gonna align it to the center, just like we had in the topic selector. And really the topic selector should also have add, modify, and remove topics. Okay. Now that we have that, we need to use the topics to show the selected topics and the all topics. So let's create those two components next. So the next component we have to do is selected topics, selected questions. Selected questions. So let's create that component. Import all as React from React. And this is going to be a React functional component. All right. And let's go create the type that we're going to need here. So type selected question section props. And what this is going to receive is a selected questions array. Handle move up and handle move down, and toggle selected question. And let's leave that for now like that. We're gonna handle the edit and delete as well. Trust me, that's gonna come with what we're doing. And then what we're gonna do is, let's go look at the selected topics. Or the selected questions. So the selected question is gonna be, let's go ahead and use stack just like it has here to start. So stack, we're gonna bring stack. Okay. Tokens, child gap 5, and then we're gonna have that as the stack. And then we're gonna use stack item, selected questions. That's gonna be our title, just like we had in our topic selector. And then we're gonna have our selected question array. Let's put this. And then we're gonna selected question. Oh, this is why it's not populating the information. So this is gonna use the selected question section props. And we're gonna pass, we're gonna pass the object selected questions array, handle move up, handle move down. And then now we should have selected questions array. And if it's greater than 0, otherwise we're gonna use a placeholder. So we're gonna use a placeholder here. And the placeholder is gonna use stack item. And instead of this, we're gonna use stack placeholder. All right, and what is the problem? Okay, I figured that's what did. All right, so now, similar to how we have it here, we're gonna use the selected we're gonna return the selected questions. So here we'll add a selected question array map, and we're gonna pass the question. Question. Which is a type of FAQ item, and the index, which is going to be a number, just like we have on the topic selector. All right, and then so for the questions, I don't know that we want to show them as a stackable bar. Let's add stack item to close that. We want to show them as content bar card. We want to show them as card. So we're going to use card. And inside the card, we're going to use them like this. So index, I don't know why I would put index item, expand it, I'm going to put false, toggle hide dialog. Are all those required by card? Let's go look at card. Vamos a ir a ver al componente de card. Then have item, toggle hide dialog, toggle hide dialog. We don't need parent ID. Do we? I guess we would need the exact same stuff that we have in the question answer. Which, by the way, let's fix that because I don't like the way I set this up. So we have... No, it wasn't content bar. Content bar. We have item. Then we have toggle hide dialog. set parent ID, set current FAQ item, handle delete, and expand it, and untoggle is optional. So let's go ahead and set this up the same way in our question selector. Wait, what? This right here. So item is going to be question. Where am I at? Content bar. Okay, so item. Yep, item is a question. Toggle hide dialogue. What dialogue is this hiding or? Okay, so we need toggle hide dialogue in here. Aquí vamos a necesitar. Let's add toggle hide dialogue to the list of stuff that we need. Toggle hide dialogue. What else do we need? Set parent ID. Set parent ID. Set parent ID. What else are we needing? Set current FAQ item and delete FAQ item. Okay. And then we got to bring in the card, obviously. Okay. So we have our selected questions. Let me block this person. I have a spammer. Spam. Okay. All right, let's go back to where we were working. So this is our selected question section. And now the next thing that we're going to work on is, let's go back to how we had our topic selected, because that's what we're copying essentially. Topic selector. The next thing we're going to create is our all question section. Right here, question section, and we're going to create the component. Vamos a crear el componente que necesitamos para esta parte. Import all as React. From React, type all question props, and the same thing here. We're going to need our FAQ items. Selected. Selected topics, selected questions array. Let's bring this in, this property in. Toggle selected question. Let's just leave it for that. Let's just leave it like that for now. Vamos a dejarlo así por ahora. And this is going to be a React functional component that uses the all props, all, and it's going to use FAQ items, select the questions array. All right. Let's make it similar to this. Okay. So in here, we're going to create a filtered questions, which is going to use React memo to basically create the questions that are going to show up in the all questions section. So this is basically saying we're going to go through all the items that we have. Tenemos todos los artículos, todas las preguntas, all the questions. And we're going to filter the items that are in the selected question, meaning we have two arrays, one with all the questions, and then we have an array with the questions that have been selected. So we have to basically filter the ones that we've selected out of all of the array. So that's just what's happening. All right, and then here we're gonna have stack brought in as well. Okay, vamos a traer stack. All right, so stack tokens child gap 8, and we're gonna close the stack. And inside of stack, dentro de esto, vamos a tener the all stack item, all questions, stack item. And here we're gonna just display the questions. And when it's not gonna be a div, it's gonna be, let me delete this. Wait, what? Yeah, I'm confusing myself. Estoy confundiéndome a mí mismo. So let's go to selected questions and move it down here. We're gonna do this like we have it here. So we're gonna have the question and the index. It's gonna be a number. And in here, we're gonna have the stack item, and we're gonna use card. And we're basically gonna have all this. And we gotta bring these in now that I know I need them. Did we need that though? I don't think we do. Let's move this over here. Because in the, where is it? We just had toggle selected topic, on delete and on edit, expanded, toggle hide dialog, set parent ID, set current FAQ. I do think we need it because we're gonna have it be able to modify. Vamos a poder modificar las preguntas, no importa en qué lado estén. We're going to be able to modify the questions regardless of where they are. So you have question, toggle hide dialog. Let's go ahead and bring all the stuff that it needs in. So similar to how we have our selected questions, I think we need these three. Why does it have them like this? Something for here. All right. So we have all of our components. Okay. And now our question answer, nuestra pregunta y respuesta, Va a tener que utilizar esto. It's gonna have to utilize this. So, let's work on that. Vamos a trabajar en eso. Let's close this up, close this up, close this up. Question selector. So here, now that we have our all questions and selected questions, our question selector, we're gonna have to do a little bit of changes on the question answer. So another question answer, we can get rid of this. Podemos quitar eso. And y ahora qué vamos a hacer? You should be able to content bar in dentro de that's too much. It's because I was thinking we could keep all the stuff that we have inside of the question answer where they are. Pensaba que podíamos tener todas las cosas de pregunta y respuesta donde están. But that's going to be a lot of prop drilling. Eso vamos a tener que pasar mucha información a través de todos los componentes y no conviene. So that's not convenient. So unfortunately, that's going to have to change. Desafortunadamente, eso va a tener que cambiar. So content bar. Esto se va a quedar, this is going to stay the same. And content bar, you know what? I think we're just gonna have to stay with the prop drilling. I basically we need to stay this way because I don't want. Here's the scenario that I don't want to happen. Eso es lo que no quiero que suceda. Whenever we open the question answer, if we were to switch things around, we would have to have an FAQ form for every topic. We don't want to do that. There's no need for that. So we're going to keep the architecture the way it is. Vamos a tener la arquitectura de la manera que es. But we're just going to have to prop drill a couple of components down, passing properties, and that's okay. Because ultimately, even though we're passing properties, in my opinion, is we don't have multiple components being rendered when we should only need one. All right. So content bar has the topic ID, and FAQ items by parent ID. So inside of the content bar, let's go to the content bar. Dentro de aquí, dentro de content bar, queremos poner if it's expanded, si está expandido, queremos en vez de poner esta información, queremos poner the new components we just created, los nuevos componentes que acabamos de crear. So let's do that. Así que vamos a hacer eso. So we have all questions, selected questions, and then we have question selector. Question selector is going to need some properties. Vamos a necesitar unas propiedades that we're going to have to pass into FAQ items. Set current FAQ item. We're going to need a lot of these. FAQ item, set current FAQ item. So we're going to need all these. Vamos a necesitar todo esto. we're gonna need all of this. Vamos a necesitar todo esto. How do I thought I could do. Oh. I know that there's an easier way to do this, but I just don't remember the keys. No me acuerdo the keys that we had to use. All right, so I'm gonna need handle move up, and no, we don't need that. No necesitamos eso. Porque so that would mean that the question handle move up, handle move down. I guess we would have to move handle move up, handle move down outside. Why do we need the question selector? Let's get rid of this. Put it back the way it was. And here, de aquí, just make it like the topic selector. All right. So inside the topic selector, we had the title section, and then we had a stack. Let's print stack. All right, and inside of stack, we had topics. So instead of topics, we have FAQ items. And let's do this. And here, I'm gonna put a div, no questions available. And then in here, we'll have our React fragment. And we're gonna have our selected question section. And then right below that, and get rid of this, we'll have an all question section. Let's bring this component in. Vamos a traer este componente dentro. Okay, so there's a question answer. We can save this. And now, let's put this inside. Vamos a poner esto dentro. Content bar. Content bar. If it is expanded, then here, instead of this, we're gonna use, wait, what did I just do? Yeah, we need to keep that fragment in place. Vamos a quedar con ese fragmento en lugar. And we're gonna use the question selector. And inside the question selector, What is, oh, we're no longer using card. Let's see what this looks like. This is probably broken. But we'll find out. Vamos a ver. So we go to edit, we go to topics. Then let's go to questions. Oh, this is cool. No topic selected. But, and here's all of our questions. This shouldn't say no topic selected. We need to create a placeholder for questions. Because right now that stack holder. Let's look at the stack holder. Oops, stack place. The stack placeholder. No, let's make this require a property. So type, and this is gonna receive descriptor. Let's say description is gonna be string. And then this is gonna show a template literal. Yeah, this is gonna show a template literal. Like this. Descript. No. Let's call it type name. And this is gonna use type name. Is this right? Let's see. Yeah, type name. No type name selected. So like if it's topic, it's gonna say topic. If it's question, it's gonna say topic. Question. If it's topic, it's gonna say topic. Si es tópico, va a ser tópico. Si es pregunta, va a ser pregunta. If it's question, it's gonna say question. So let's save this. It's gonna give us errors, obviously. And let's go look at where the errors are. Go to terminal. No errors. Oh, I know why. That place, because we made this optional. Here we go. Here's our errors. So this one is gonna be for questions. Type name, questions. Where's the other error? This is topics. So this is gonna be type name, topics. Any other errors? Yep, some one more error. Right here. This is dealing with, this was on topics, the main topics. So this one's type name, topics. And that should get rid of all the errors. No tenemos más errores. No more errors. So now, if we go to topics, no topic selected. Good. That's what we wanted to see. And then if we go to questions, no questions selected. So see, we don't have to write another component. No necesitamos escribir otro componente. We just reuse it. So now the next thing that we have to do is work on the question answer. I really think that we're gonna have to create a new component that's not a card, because the card is used more like, if I go to preview, this is what a card is used for. Like whenever you want to expand things, this is card, the way it's supposed to work for accordion, right? Like if we want to have the question answer as an accordion, that's where we want to use it. But for the Q&A, I think we're gonna have to move away from card. But I think that we're about 60% there overall. In this web part, we are at about, I would say about 70% with its complete, almost complete. And so tomorrow we'll work on adding questions in the question selector. Vamos a mañana trabajar en poder agregar las preguntas para poder seleccionar qué preguntas queremos mostrar debajo de cada tópico. And yeah, so I think we made good progress. Yo creo que hicimos buen progreso hoy. Mañana continuamos con más. Gracias por acompañarme. Thank you for being with me. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments. Si tienes alguna pregunta, por favor ponlo en los comentarios. And I will catch you on the next one. Peace.